I saw this post on Reddit, and as someone who doesn't like the current Warlock package, I figured I'd read it together with you, chat. Hey guys. Amorphous Slime is probably the single most swinging card that they have made since Barnes, and it is generally maddened to play against. Dude, 100% agree here. We're gonna talk about this why. Really hope it gets nerfed like 7 mana 7/4 or something. Also, not really liking that playing against Rogue has become. I don't care about this. We're not talking about this. Okay, so people often will say that because a deck isn't tier 1, it should not be nerfed, right? Which I don't agree with at all. This seems to be the biggest thing he says in his edit. The problem with Warlock right now is Warlock is one of the worst things to play against because it genuinely comes down to if you draw the card on turn 5. The card in question here is Amorphous Slime. This is a 5 mana 5/3 battlecry. Discard a random undead, death rattle, summon a copy of it. The problem with this card is that if you have it on turn 5 and your opponent just does not have an answer for this card, such as a hex, a silence, whatever, and you discarded an undead, you probably are in a losing position unless you are playing a class that can clear the board indefinitely. A lot of the classes in the game don't really have that luxury. And the problem with it is currently in standard, the undeads you are playing are the following. Why does Warlock look like this? You are playing either they're not neutral. Oh, hold on. They are neutral. Sorry, very unprepared for this. You are playing Thaddeus or you're playing Flesh Behemoth, both of which will probably get you to your Thaddeus, right? You're also playing the 7 mana 6/6 lifesteal guy, but I don't think that's the problem. The problem is that Thaddeus as a card is just fundamentally just mana cheating out of control. And there's a reason why they have made the card cost 10 mana, because at 10 mana, your opponent has a chance to actually kill this before you pop off. But the second you add the slime into the game, Thaddeus can come down on turn 6. And if your opponent doesn't have an immediate answer, the game is just over, which is horrible gameplay. Doesn't matter if the deck is tier 1 or tier 4, it's just absolutely garbage. Every single time you play against it, you basically have a decision to make on turn 5 of if I can silence the slime, I have a chance. If I don't, the game is absolutely over. People are going to be like, oh, you could just play priest or you can play shaman to deal with it. But like, that's not good game design, right? There shouldn't be anything in the game that just says, hey, I'm going to take this out. In fact, they designed a card like this way earlier on, which was called Barnes. Barnes is one of the worst design cards in Hearthstone, in my opinion. If you did not play with this card in the game, this card used to be 4 mana, by the way. And at 4 mana, this card could decide the game because it would just cheat out a death rattle or a really good effect in your deck, and you would just end up losing the game because of this card right here. This card is not great. And even in Wild for a very long time, if I remember correctly, this card was not nerfed in standard. This card was kept in the game at 4 mana, and I believe it was finally nerfed in Wild, not standard. So this card was in the game for a very long time. Let me double check that actually. Let me fact check this live. Let's see. It was nerfed in Savers of Uldum. Yeah, so it was literally in the game. It was in standard for 2 years, and they did not nerf it. Which is absolutely mind-boggling. The problem with this card, by the way, during its time, especially in a game like older Hearthstone, which wasn't as fast-paced, it wasn't as mana cheating, this card would just break the system. And I guess they didn't really learn from this effect, or they did not think that the Warlock Undead package would be as swingy as it currently is. But we just actually had this, which is with this card, the Death Blossom Whomper. They decided to make this card 5 mana in a previous patch, and they ended up nerfing it to 6 because it's basically the exact same thing as Barnes or the slime that I was just talking about earlier. Which in the development comment, by the way, the standard meta is in a good spot right now with a lot of competitive options across most classes. We're making this adjustments because Whomper is the biggest sentiment outlier in the format. We consider a handful of other cards that could have gotten small adjustments, but we decided that it'd be better to let the meta play out for a while. I'm gonna be honest here. I'm surprised they didn't just say this card feels bad and we're gonna nerf it back to 6 mana so you have an additional turn to deal with this minion. But this is exactly what is happening with the slime in Warlock. The concept of if I draw my 5-drop or not doesn't feel good for a lot of players, and I seriously doubt that we will probably get this type of effect. Or sorry, I seriously doubt that this won't save this problem ever again. They're probably going to do this again, but with Warlock it feels infinitely worse because we are hold on, I am like trolling here. Give me a sec. How do I get the fuck out of here? With Warlock, because we are because we're cheating the slime. Because we're cheating at the slime and we're not cheating out just a regular death rattle. If they get Thaddeus, the game is basically over. Warlock now feels like a class that just high rolls or it doesn't high roll, and it just feels awful. As someone who has played Warlock for a really long time, this is probably the least fun I've had playing Warlock, and it's also probably the class that doesn't feel like any Warlocky. I don't know why discarding an undead is really in the Warlock nature. It makes me feel kind of bad. And the problem with it is that this is the most supported archetype that Warlock is going to have probably for the entire rest of this year. And even if they nerf it, I'm a little scared because Warlock's fundamental design right now feels pretty bad, at least in my opinion, right? I'm not a huge Warlock fan right now because a lot of the Warlock cards are just, here's my random imp package, here's my random deal damage to myself, and here's my Murloc package, and then we can play the good cards that just cheat out mana and we win the game. So, I mean, I don't really know how to feel about it as a design standpoint, because if they nerf Warlock at the moment, it's not going to feel great. Also, the location, where the frick is this location? This card's pretty good because if you could cheat out big stats, you can get even more stats with Forge of Will, and then you put your opponent even more behind. In the previous expansion, Festival of Legends, one of the reasons why the undead deck wasn't great was because the early game was definitely suffering. Now Warlock got a bunch of cards in Titans that allowed them to get past the early game. Now, I'm not saying there's like not a problem with any other class in the game, but as a Warlock player, this sucks. I hate playing against it. I was playing off stream and I went against the Warlock 3 times and I just stopped playing the game because I just didn't want to play against it. And that feels horrible. I'm gonna be, I hope they nerf it, not even because it's broken. Like, I'm pretty sure at the moment, if we look at HSReplay, let me move my camera real fast. Warlock's actually in 3. Oof. Wait, hold on. Where? I'm very curious here. If I look at the stats, so you know what card is a problem? If I look up the mulligan win rate and I sort it by mulligan win rate and I see that the biggest card here is slime. Let's take a peek. Yeah, see, 67% is disgusting. Even with Forge of Wills, Jesus Christ. But yeah, I mean, this really speaks volumes to where Warlock is at right now. And I hope that people like understand that it doesn't have to be a tier 1 deck for it to be nerfed. This is purely like a sediment thing because it doesn't feel good to play against. Even as a Warlock main, I hate how cheaty slime is. The whole deck is built around it and how I miss the old days of Handlock. Bro, see, I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it. What else are people saying? This is the average Warlock turn 5. Let's take a peek. Yep. See, slime, cheated out, Thaddeus, undead, just a bunch of big stats. It just feels so, dude, feels so miserable. I don't like a god. Now, how do they fix this problem, right? Like, they could just nerf the slime. They could just nerf this card to like 7 mana and make it not big of an issue. They can even nerf it to 6 and give classes an additional turn to kill the Warlock because that additional turn will be relevant. But I don't know. Like, I think if they nerf slime, I'm worried where Warlock is going to be because I think Warlock's just going to be kind of in the gutter. Maybe they'll be okay just because they do have a lot of really good early game now and they have a late game win condition of the Titan, but I don't know, dude. This is a huge design error and I hope they nerf it. Especially as a Warlock player, it doesn't feel good playing the class. It's not fun. It's not fun playing against.